In this example, we're going to show you how to build a business object in Flowrite. And typically, these are objects that live, existing objects inside your APIs. And you can use a business object concept to expose those objects directly within a process by implementing a business object wrapper. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our Visual Studio and build a new business object. So before we build a business object, I'm going to build a simple class called CLS person. So let me go ahead and add that. So let's go and add a class here, and it is going to be CLS person. And I'm not going to type all the stuff in here. I'm just going to copy and paste from my existing code example that I have. So here's my class over here. And if you look at this class, we have three properties, name, age, and result. And then we also have a constructor where we can provide name, age, and result. And those properties get set when this object is created. So a very simple, little class here. And what we can do is now we can take this class and build a business object wrapper around this class. And like I said, typically this might be a class that exists inside your API. So let me add a new class here. And let's call it FW person BO. All right, so now we have this public class here, and we want to implement the business object interface. So I'm just going to go and say IFW business object. And you'll see I have some underlining here. That means I have to fix an issue here on this. And one of them is, of course, implementing the interface. And this is going to put a whole bunch of properties here and functions. And these functions need to be implemented. Okay? And these functions have various different, they perform certain things. So for example, get an object type is going to get the type of object. Get object will get you the object, and like that, various different functions perform things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy my existing code that I have here, and I will explain the code. So let me go ahead and copy the code. And what we need is these particular functions here. All right. Okay, let me just make sure. This is some of my old code from old version of Flowrite, so that's why you'll see some of these issues here. Okay, so if you look at these functions that we have implemented, get object really gets you a new CLS person object. So you can see that the parameters are coming in, name, age, and result. These are coming in through these input parameters, and basically we create a person object and return that person object. And I also have a little function here, get input parameter keys. This tells our UI what keys are available. So in our case, it's name, age, and result. And we put that into a list of string and return that back. Get object type, basically return the type of object. So in this case, type of CLS person. Get dynamic property list. These are properties that might not exist in your object, but you might want to track extra properties. So in this case, our CLS person object really doesn't have alpha and beta as properties, but these are extra dynamic properties that we have added so you can use. You can also get a certain dynamic property value. So as you can see, a key gets passed in and you can return a value based on that key. We have also customers that use this to pass some kind of key so you can perform some function and return a value. And then here's a set dynamic property value that basically sets the value of a dynamic key that you provide. So we should be good to go on this now. And let's go ahead and compile this code. All right, the code is all compiled successfully. And now we can go ahead and copy this DLL. So I'm going to go to the bin folder where the output is and copy the DLL. So let's go to debug, net 7, and I'm going to copy the DLL and the PDB file. So let me go to my fluoride directory. So here's my fluoride, and I'm going to overwrite. And now I have updated my fluoride with the new DLL. And we're going to go into fluoride now. And within the fluoride business objects UI, I'm going to go and say auto detect. And should automatically detect that new business object we just created. So here we go, FW person BO. So I'm going to go ahead and say configure. And this will be automatically configured. And if we go back to our list of business objects, you'll see that we have this particular business object. Okay. So now what we can do is we can use this business object in any of our processes. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to create a new one called, let's say, FW10 test BO. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to go and define a business object variable. So you can see manage business objects. And if I click on that, I get this little UI here. I'm going to use the FW person BO type, and I'm going to define a business object called, let's say, person one. Okay. So you could have multiple business objects if you want within fluoride this defined. So the first thing we have to do in our process flow is we have to go get this person one. So if you look under the toolbox here, we have a category and we have one called get object. And basically what you're telling is we are telling, hey, I want you to go get this specific object. Just like in programming, you have classes and objects. And when you code, you're telling the code, hey, I want you to go get this person, maybe with the ID 1234 or whatever. So in this case, I'm going to use this step called get object. I'm going to say go get object person one. And you will see that I need to provide some parameters here. And I'm going to select my business object. So you can see in order to get this object, I have to provide a name, age, and a result. So the name I'm going to say John, age is 45, and result is XXX. Okay. And save that. And there are also some advanced properties here also with business objects. You can also say load properties on demand. And there's also a time to leave amount. I can say, hey, this time to leave is every 1 day, And basically what that does is, it'll go get the data for this business object. It will retain it for a day. And next time when the call is made, it will check, Okay, is this business object old more than a day the last time I retrieved the data? In that case, go get the data again. Otherwise, within a day, it will just keep giving you the information. If you have business objects that change all the time, you might want to use, maybe a 5 second TTL or time to live. Load properties on demand. If your object has, let's say, 25 properties, uh, then if you don't do load on demand, we will bring all 25 properties and their values and make it available to the process. But if you do load on demand, we will only get the properties that the workflow or the process will ask for. Maybe you might have 25 properties in your object, but maybe only 3 of them are used in this process. So we have only retrieved 3 properties and their values. So now that we have configured the person one, what we can do now is we can directly use this business object in other steps. So let's do a decision, and in this decision I am going to evaluate a condition based on our business object. So as we have a certain format for using referencing business objects. So just like variable dot, we have cdev bo dot. And when you do that, you can see IntelliSense will automatically give you person one. And if I do dot, you can also see I have all the properties of that object, not only the properties that exist in the underlying object, but also the dynamic properties. You can see I have age, name, result. Those belong to the actual underlying object, but alpha and beta are dynamic properties. So in this case, I'm going to say if the result is equal to xxx, okay, then go down one path if it's true, go down another path if it is false. And as you can see, I used our business objects directly, its property directly to evaluate a condition. So let's go ahead and put a placeholder so we can see which path it goes down. And so let's set this to be true. Let's set this to be false. So we're going to make a slight modification to this particular condition here. We're going to put this inside double quotes because we're actually comparing a string value, because you could be having a property value that could be a number. So in this case string, so we're going to put that in here. Let's go ahead and save that, and we'll save the definition, and we'll run instance, and let's go ahead and check that, and we have the process running. I actually forgot to run the engine, so I'm going to go ahead and run the engine to make sure it processes our workflow. And if you look, you can see that it started off, it got the business object, and then from there it used the value from the business object in a decision. And since that particular condition was true, it went down and went to this particular placeholder using the true path. So that's how you would use a business object, build a business object, configure it, and use it within Flowrite. So hope you learn how to build a business object and use it. Thank you.